Good morning everyone, my name's Ben Sudlow and today I've got the very special pleasure of interviewing Grey Johnston, Sales and Marketing Manager at CSBP, and this morning for the first time he's on the other side of the desk and I'm going to be talking to him about the fertiliser market in WA, and most in particular about urea. Grey and I have spent the last couple of months talking about urea and where prices are gone, risk around urea, and of all the products we do bring in, urea is the one that creates probably the most challenges for our supply and so forth. So today I'm going to put it to Grey. Let's talk about the risks of urea and importing and supplying that to our market, Grey.
You've played this game, way more times than I'll ever play it, Ben, but the way I see it in your real world in particular and fertiliser more broadly, we're sort of always balancing between these three key risks. There's price risk, which is the thing we mostly talk about on this podcast. The global price could change in between when you fix a ship or when a farmer locks in their price of urea. The global price could go up, could go down. There's always a risk there. And I guess the price risk for the farmer really is the thing they always want to avoid is locking in a price and then the price goes down. Everyone has that fear of missing out. We know that prices are volatile and someone has to take that risk in the market that we're playing in. You've got price risk. You've got supply risk, which is a thing that we think is becoming even more acute in this West Australian market. And we talk a lot about shipping congestion. We talk a lot about the shortness of lead times and being able to get product into the berth. And then even if the ships are here, and often we saw it in recent fertiliser seasons where a ship may have been ordered on time and it's just sitting out at a port in Geraldton or out at a port in Kwinana waiting to unload. And then there's always time that it takes to get that product off the ship into the sheds and out to a customer. There's lots of different bottlenecks within the logistics supply chain, and they all bring that kind of supply risk. And then the third risk we're always balancing is season risk, which is the rainfall going to be there to support the fertiliser requirement? It's going to rain a lot, and therefore we're going to need lots of nutrient to meet that yield potential, or we're going to have ordered a whole bunch of nutrient on expectation of some rain, and then that doesn't come. And that season risk is probably ever present in all the different agricultural markets we're in, and the customers we have are adept at managing that risk. So we think we're balancing price risk, supply risk, and season risk. And as you know, Ben, I guess they're really hard to try and find the right balance there because in the fertiliser market, unlike in some other crop markets that farmers would be familiar with, in your grain selling market, there's no derivative options available. You might help us out on what we're talking about when we're talking about derivatives there?
We've probably only briefly spoken about in the past is the ability to buy a forward price position with any great length in it. And there's not a great deal of liquidity in the market, probably mostly in urea. But again, it's pretty shallow, the liquidity, and it doesn't go very far out. So we're really taking positions is taking a physical cargo. But in all of that, Grey, the answer, you pose the question of risk, and in doing so, does it imply that there's some solution that we and our customers can do to help address this?
Yeah, well, I mean, what people often say to us all the time is, okay, we understand you can't disconnect the purchasing of a product with being able to fix a price for the product, right? There's no derivative market available that helps you do that, unlike in grain markets. The solution then is build a whole massive bunch of storage and bring in 1 million tonnes of urea at a time, and then you'll be able to fix your price position and that'll be sorted. And of course, we're not just balancing risk, right? We're not just balancing price risk, supply risk and season risk. We're also trying to run the supply chain in the lowest cost possible. And for one thing, building a big bunch of storage and bringing in 1 million tonnes of urea and having it all arrive at the same time is going to stretch our port capacity and is going to lead to us taking a whole bunch of price risk because we're locking the price on that.
It'll stretch your procurement team's mental state too.
Exactly right, and that's already stretched probably to near to its limits. But that's clearly not the lowest cost way of meeting the requirements of the fertiliser market, right? We see that CBH are going to export 20 million tonnes of grain, a 20 million tonne harvest, but they only do it by exporting a maximum of 2 million tonnes a month. They're not looking to export 20 million tonnes, building a supply chain, a rail supply chain, a road supply chain, and a port export supply chain that can meet that 20 million tonnes in any one month. That would be a ludicrous proposition. And just like that, we can't run a fertiliser supply chain that would see us import the full state's nitrogen requirement in a 2-week window so we can all have all the nitrogen we need and respond to seasonal conditions perfectly. So, as you well know, we have to run the supply chain in an orderly fashion and bite off those urea shipments how many urea shipments we're looking at procuring this year in that sort of May to meet that sort of May to July demand window?
Look, it can be, I mean, we've spoken the last month or two about it being somewhere between 6, 8, possibly even up to 10 shipments. Probably on average it'd be 7 or 8 shipments that we would take in that time. And I think, you know, we've spoken in that time about what can we do to help balance the risk and give people a reasonable balance of procurement timing over an extended period. And I think, you know, we've spoken about the nitrogen pool offer, and you know, Grey, is this the answer that you're going to give me that, as a great economist you are, that there's going to be somehow there's a better outcome in terms of capital allocation to not bring 1 million tonnes in, but also to give customers a balance of a price?
Clearly the answer is yes, so thank you for that, Dorothy, Dixon, Ben. But yeah, how do we avoid that supply risk? So make sure and run the supply chain in a reasonably low cost fashion. So make sure we can bring in the fertiliser in an orderly fashion, have it here when people need it, but still manage to get a nice balance around that price risk. And we think the Urea Pool Offer is a great solution to that problem. So customers can have absolute surety that the product's going to be there when they need it. They can be confident that they're going to get a fair price, and it leaves them reasonably well positioned to at least put some of their product into that urea pool contract to make sure that they can manage some of that season risk as well. So they'll be able to secure at least enough of their urea fertiliser that means they'll be able to meet their sort of minimum nitrogen requirements for the year. So how does it work?
Yeah, well, before you go there, Grey, with that question, I'm asking the questions today. Farmers are thinking, well, you know, I'll back myself to get the lowest price, or how do I avoid the highest price? How do they need to think about that?
Well, I mean, people can think about it however they want. My answer on that question is always, you know, if you think you are going to be able to genuinely pick the market and get the lowest price, then please come and work for us in procurement, or you know, you're probably kidding yourself. If you really think you are going to be able to pick the lowest price, then this product is not for you, and that's ultimately, you know, your choice as a farmer to make that choice. Yeah. Our job in CSBP is to run the fertiliser supply chain efficiently and to provide you all the information you need to make a good choice and an informed choice about when the right time and what manner to lock your fertiliser requirements in. So if you want to hold out and wait and consider that the price may go down, you may well be right, but equally you're just taking on other risk to do that, right? There's no free lunch in fertiliser. You're taking price risk because the price might go up. You're taking season risk because you will be running the risk that the product won't be there if you do get a good rainfall event. And you're certainly taking supply risk, which is, we know that it takes time for this product to come through the ports, and we know that we will be supplying the urea that we do bring through the ports to the farmers who've provided us early commitment. So you're taking all those 3 risks. And if you're willing to take that gamble, then good on you. And if you're willing to look to balance some of those risks, then we think the pool offer is a good option.
So now, Grey, you better tell me the mechanics of this thing. How does it work, and how is CSBP in a good or the best position to be able to provide such an offer?
Yeah, so what we'll do, a farmer will provide us a commitment to say, I want to buy X tonnes, 400 tonnes of urea over the period of March, April, May, June, July, over this coming season. Just like a normal contract, you tell us what product, urea sustain, where you want to collect it, and what volume you collect in which months. We'll then contract with you to provide you an overall average price for that product. So one average price for all of that product that's based on the average of all of those 8, 9, 7 ships that we procure over that February to May window. So we'll fix the price of probably 8 ships over that February to May window. We'll take the average price of those ships, and then we'll, at the time of contracting, tell you we'll charge a fixed margin above the average, whatever the average of those prices ends up being, and we'll pass that price on to you. So if you collect some product before the end of that May window, we'll charge you a sort of an interim price, and then when that May window closes, we'll know what the final price of your urea is going to be based on the average cost of all those ships and that fixed margin that we agreed to you at the time of contracting. And if it turns out that the average price is a bit lower than what we've charged you up front, then we'll pay you a rebate. If it turns out that the average price is a bit higher than what we've charged you for earlier collections, then we'll invoice you for that difference. But effectively, you're going to get the average of the true purchasing cost of CSBP's 7, 8, 9 ships over that window, plus a fixed margin to cover the cost of our storage, handling and distribution network. So instead of getting a price that may be at the top of the market or maybe at the bottom market, we can broadly speaking, confirm to you, you're going to get a price that reflects the true average of the cost position of the product that's coming to the state over that period of time. Why we're in a good position to do it? Well, just like in your super fund or in any other investment you might do, any advisor is going to tell you to diversify. We think that CSBP offers you the best diversification option because we're bringing in the most number of ships. So we're going to give you the average of however many ships we bring in. We're pretty confident that compared to other suppliers in the market, we're going to bring in the greatest number. So you're going to have the diversification of price over that broad range.
Okay, I've got two questions for you, Grey. How do we know that CSBP's price is going to be, what those numbers are? How do we get that validated?
Yeah, so we're not going to pull a fast one on you. We'll absolutely, provide a contractual commitment to say, hey, if you want to sort your, independent third-party auditor out to come in and review our books and see what the different cost positions are and all the different purchases we've made over that period of time, we'll open the books up to that audit for that purpose. Or at the end of the period, we'll run an audit ourselves with, an independent auditor will engage for that purpose and we'll provide that audit outcome to you. So you can have assurance that we'll just be taking the cost of that product and the cost of bringing it and landing it in our works and then passing that directly through to you with that fixed margin.
And then, so the second question to that, Grey, is, now I've put myself in that. I'm assuming that I'm going to get, if you like, equal priority or better priority on that product in those months than someone who's going to come in off the street, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you provide commitment to CSBP through a set price contract, through a supply contract, or through this nitrogen pool contract, absolutely, we're providing a commitment to have that stock available for you in our works at the time you've contracted to receive it.
And my final question on this, Grey, is as far as the overall volume that you can put into this, I mean, notwithstanding you get a half-decent procurement team behind you, is there a limit that you can put in this? Is there a maximum that we can handle? What are you thinking about that?
I don't think we necessarily have a limit in volume, but we certainly have a limit in time. Clearly, to be fair to people who've signed up into the pool offer, we need to close the offer reasonably quickly after that 1 February procurement window starts to take effect, because of course, if we then see prices change dramatically one way or the other, people may want to pile in and take advantage of that. But that's of course not fair to the people who've signed into the offer at the commencement of the pool. We'll have the offer available for the next few weeks into early February and willing to contract, frankly, whatever volume people would be happy to sign up in that period of time. We know we'll be able to make it available within reason, and then that's how the offer should work. We have some self-interest in suggesting that farmers sign up to this offer, right? We see that it positions things really nicely. CSBP can get on with doing what we do best, which is maintaining an orderly supply and running the supply chain in the lowest cost way. And farmers can get on with what they do best, which is growing the best bloody crops they can, and not worrying about trying to pick the top or the bottom of the urea market. They can just get on with it, have confidence in supply, and know that price is going to be a fair reflection of whatever the state's landed procurement price is. Of course, in doing that, we are cutting out any ability for CSBP to make any upside wins when the price moves in our favour, and of course we're also cutting out the ability for CSBP to lose if the price moves against us. So we think it gets a balance of those three risks we talk about: price risk, supply risk, and season risk. We think it just helps get those three things in a little more balance compared to perhaps where the industry was heading, where it is taking on more and more supply risk and therefore leading farmers to be in a worse and worse and detrimental position if the season does fire, as we saw last season, and then there's a material risk that people won't have the product when they need it. We just think it brings that risk balance into a slightly better position.
I think that's a great description of the pool offer. You've talked earlier about you can take the spot market if you want, the risk associated with that. We've got current set price contracts, which mean fixing your price. Now this pool offer, is there any other ways that customers can get some certainty around their supply?
Yeah, so when we have a price position, of course, we'll be offering the normal set price contract and people can purchase their urea in the traditional way. And of course, we've also got a supply agreement available. So that's that's kind of a combination, I guess, a hybrid between the pool offer, where you're getting the average of all the ships, but still getting assured supply, and a set price contract, where you're locking in supply and price at the same time. The supply agreement enables you to get certainty of supply and then choose the time later in that contract where you can lock in the price. And of course, that's always an option as well.
Great, it's been a pleasure being on this side of the desk, and to use one of your lines, it's great to finish on such a bombshell as that. Thanks very much, Gray, for joining us. See you out there in fertiliser world.
Thanks, Ben.
This podcast is provided as general information only. The content of this podcast is not a recommendation and has been prepared without taking your objectives or circumstances into account. Before acting on the content of this, you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances and seek independent advice.